Well, this is our fifth introductory video for the book of Hebrews. We're spending a lot of time getting ready on the introduction. This, I think, is an improvement over what we've done in the past, so kind of orient you to the book and challenge you to join us. So I'm going to be covering several things, three things in this video. First of all, who wrote it? Who wrote the book of Hebrews? What is the book of Hebrews about? And I think the most important section is what's the problem? What's the problem? So let's discuss these one at a time. First of all, who wrote it? Well, no one's named in the book as the author, so we really don't know who wrote the book for sure. Lots and lots of speculation, lots and lots of opinions. Lots of ink has been spilt, arguing for one author against another. So my personal opinion on this is that this is a sermon. In chapter 13, it's called a word of exhortation. So it's a sermon, not a letter. And I think it was a sermon that was delivered by Paul and then written down by one of Paul's companions, perhaps Barnabas, perhaps Luke, who accompanied with him in the book of Acts. So that's my opinion. Ultimately, though, it's the Holy Spirit who caused this book to be written. And we need to pay attention to that. We need to recognize that. This is the work of the Holy Spirit that's been recorded for us and passed along. It's been preserved through really 2,000 years for us to be reading in the leisure of our living room or dining room, or if we have a den, in your den, without harassment. And so what a blessing it is to have this spread out in front of us. So that's who wrote it. Don't really know. It's a simple answer. What's it about? The book's about Jesus. I know you could say that every book in the Bible is about Jesus. I get that. But this particularly is a book that's really focused on Jesus. He's presented as basically God's final word and ultimate message to mankind. He's presented and defended as superior to anything that came before him. As important as the prophets were, as important as the angels are, as important as Moses was, as important as Aaron was, Jesus outstrips them all. He outstrips them all. So he's superior to everything that ever came before. And he's not just a figure from history. He's someone who's active. He has an ongoing ministry for us, for his people, and ongoing ministry for everyone who believes. We're going to be discussing that and discovering that what that ministry is and what it means to us. And we'll also talk about our future with him, what is still coming, what is on the prophetic plan of God that's still in the future, and how does his coming shape our walk today. We'll be talking about that as we go through this in the next year. So who wrote it? What's it about? And finally, the biggest section, I think, and in some ways the most important, is what is the problem? You know, every New Testament book is written responding to some problem or threat or coming threat. And the response to that problem or threat or coming threat is drawn from the teachings of Jesus by the apostles, by those who knew him, and then applied to particular situations for our benefit. So we can learn how to do that as well. So we have different kinds of problems here. We have basically the big picture is persecution. We have persecution of various kinds of people in this community that's being addressed, this church perhaps that's being addressed. And like all churches, there's several different kinds of people that are present and are hearing the message. So I think it's important for us to understand that, otherwise we're not going to be able to understand the book. So the first group of people that I want to point out are Jewish believers. These are true Christians, people who have really committed themselves to the Lord, But since that commitment, they've been suffering opposition and alienation from family and friends. We'll see that as we get into the book. They're not as mature as they should be. They should be much more mature than they are, but they're not. So the author addresses that. And it looks to be like they're under mounting pressure to compromise. Now, these people are not in danger of losing their salvation. That can't be lost. But they are in danger of falling into a Jewish kind of legalism, compromising on what they believe in order to get along. And they need to be both edified, built up, and encouraged to not go back to Judaism, not go back to what they knew before. Aren't we like that in a lot of ways? Believers, Christians, growing in our maturity, maybe not as mature as we should be, facing opposition, and we need the encouragement and the exhortation to stand firm in what we believe and to grow in what we believe, to be established in it. The second kind of people that he'll be talking to in this book are what I call Jewish almost believers. So we have Jewish believers. Now we have Jewish almost believers. People who are, and sometimes, they're in your church on Sunday mornings. They're investigating the gospel. Maybe they understand it in a cognitive sort of way, in an academic, I'd say, sort of way. But they really haven't believed it yet. They get all the facts, but they just haven't put it together. Think about your own salvation. Perhaps you were in that kind of gray zone between belief and faith at some point in your life, that you kind of understood the facts, but we're hesitant, we're holding back. Well, I think that's what we have here. We have what in the Gospel of John refers to these kinds of people in John 12:43, people that love the praise of men rather than the praise of God. They're watching what's going on. They're seeing the persecution. They're seeing the ostracism that comes with becoming a Christian as a Jew, and they're holding back. We see them referred to, in my opinion, in Hebrews 6:4, where the writer talks about them being enlightened but not saved. Enlightened but not saved. So they've been enlightened by the truth of the gospel, but they really haven't made that faith commitment, that faith belief, I guess I'd say, in Jesus. What do they need? Well, the last group of people, the believers, need to be edified and exhorted, built up and urged to go on. These need to be educated. They need to hear an explanation, maybe a clearer explanation if they heard in the past, or an explanation that really just reinforces what they already know, that about how Jesus is, in fact, Israel's Messiah. That's what they need. A little different from the believer. And finally, I think there's a group in this congregation, group that's listening, maybe cynical, maybe dismissive, Jewish unconvinced unbelievers. Again, if we look back on our own spiritual journey, I wasn't raised in a Christian home. Perhaps you were and didn't experience this, but I was somebody who needed to be told about Jesus in very clear terms. I had been raised in a different spiritual environment, and I was confused about Jesus. I had a lot of unsound Roman Catholic theology mixed up in my mind with true things, and I needed to be educated. Someone had to explain to me how this could work. So that's what we have. I got a call right now, sorry. But that's what we have in this book, and that's what we'll be seeing. And let me just give you a challenge. Did you see yourself in one of these categories? A believer that needs exhortation and encouragement? An almost believer who needs to be convinced, needs education? Or maybe an unconvinced person that's just dabbling and looking into this and wondering how Jesus, this carpenter from Galilee, could possibly be Israel's long hoped for Messiah. If that's one of you, you're in the right place. I pray that you'll join me, that you'll make that commitment, that you'll spend that 15 minutes 3 times a week to join me in 2026 as we explore this really important book, and that you find it educates you, that it encourages you, and that it builds you up or edifies you in the faith. So God bless you. And again, I pray that you join us and that you'll be part of In the Word as we explore Hebrews in 2026. Thanks so much.